Tonight, how the Epstein scandal has left the Prime Minister fighting for his political life, even after he issued this apology.
I am sorry. Sorry for what was done to you. Sorry that so many people with power failed you.
He said sorry to the paedophile's victims for hiring Peter Mandelson as MPs and his own party demand his resignation.
The Epstein investigation.
Questions too for the King as demands grow for his brother to give evidence. Also coming up, police in Arizona admit they have no idea what happened to the mother of one of America's most famous news anchors.
We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive.
That was Savannah Guthrie appealing to her mother's kidnappers 5 days after she was abducted. Tonight, we'll hear the latest police update. And after Cambodia's crackdown on scam centre bosses, we hear from some of the thousands of workers who were trafficked and are now trapped. Plus,
today we remind him that the lives of millions of people are in his hands and that he has the power to turn mourning into dancing.
What happened when a Democratic congressman scolded Donald Trump through prayer? We'll speak to him live, coming up on The World with me, Dominic Waghorn. Good evening. A Prime Minister on the ropes, a king questioned about the actions of his disgraced brother, the head of the World Economic Forum under investigation, all because of one man. Jeffrey Epstein, of course, a convicted paedophile who uses cash, connections and influence to abuse women. Now around the world there have been resignations, apologies and criminal investigations. It's clear that this man, Britain's former ambassador to the US, lied about his relationship with the billionaire. Keir Starmer's decision to appoint Peter Mandelson could end his premiership. King Charles didn't react when he was heckled today, but we could see his brother, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, give evidence in the UK, but also in the US. And what about this man? Each year he brings together the world's most influential business and political leaders in Davos. He denied contact with Epstein, released documents prove otherwise. His job is now also on the line. Coming up, we'll ask a lawyer for some of Epstein's survivors if the Prime Minister's apology is enough. But let's get started with this report from Sky's political editor, Beth Rigby.
Mandelson knew Epstein, but none of us knew the depth and the darkness of that relationship.
Once the PM's man in Washington, now his gravest threat.
He portrayed Epstein as someone he barely knew.
Keir Starmer's decision to put Mandelson back into his government has left the PM fighting for his own political life.
No one is above accountability.
The gravity of Starmer's predicament made plain as he came to Hastings to deliver an apology to Epstein's victims.
I am sorry. Sorry for what was done to you. Sorry that so many people with power failed you. Sorry for having believed Mandelson's lies and appointed him. And sorry that even now you're forced to watch this story unfold in public once again.
His simmering fury barely below the surface. He knows Mandelson might prove a wrong he cannot right. Prime Minister, we can all hear your anger, your regret, and most importantly, your apology to victims. But look, whatever he said or didn't say, it has proved a catastrophic error of your judgment to put him back into your government. Some of your MPs believe you must take responsibility for this in order to restore trust in politics. And some are saying publicly now that you should stand down because your positions become untenable. Why are they wrong?
Well, Beth, as I've said a number of times, I regret the decision to appoint Mandelson as ambassador. He was asked questions about the nature and extent of his relationship with Epstein, and he told lies.
And Starmer's message to his MPs who think he can't go on?
I understand their anger and frustration. They are angry about his association with Epstein, as am I. We must remain focused on what we were elected into government to do, which is to change this country for the better for millions of people.
Opponents trying to use the moment to force change at the top of number 10.
It is now up to Labour MPs to do the right thing. I know there are many of them who are horrified by what has happened. They might now expect the Prime Minister to take responsibility, but we know he won't. He will have to be dragged out of number 10. If they want the change they know the country needs, let's talk seriously about a vote of no confidence to force the moment.
Even allies asking if time is up.
But it will bring him down unless he takes the action which is really necessary for him to take, and that's this. He's got to stop blaming Mandelson and saying, he lied to me. Peter Mandelson was called the Prince of Darkness. It's not a secret that he was a bad person. Why on earth did Peter Mandelson even get in the room to be considered for this ambassadorship?
That is a question many of his MPs are asking. The mood in the party is mutinous. One minister told me they did not think he could survive, saying the party is simply too upset. Another, when I asked about a possible challenge, simply replied, temperatures are running high. Starmer is clearly fighting for his political survival. The passion and the fury today was palpable. But for all of that, there is a terminal gloom descending on his premiership, that from this crisis, there is simply no way back. But as for what comes next for the Labour Party, that's unclear. All the conditions are there for a challenge to his premiership, but for now, his cabinet choose to sit on their hands. The Prime Minister will hope his apology was heard not just by his MPs, but people across the country, and that it has bought him some time. But he knows too that his future is far from certain, and it's beyond his control. Beth Rigby, Sky News.
Well, what do survivors of Jeffrey Epstein make of the Prime Minister's apology? Let's bring in Spencer Cooven, who represents several of those women. Mr. Cooven, thank you very much for joining us. What do you think they will be making? I think people in the UK will be making up their own minds about this apology. What do you think the women you represent will be making of this apology from the Prime Minister? And do you think that they will agree with many people in the Prime Minister's own party that he should probably be considering his position currently?
Thank you for having me. And, you know, the thing that just comes to mind immediately is that the apology rings completely hollow. You can check, and I was interviewed in December of 2024 when the appointment was being made, and as an advocate on behalf of victims was saying that this was a horrible choice. Keir Starmer had a clear choice, and he made the wrong one. Appointing someone like Peter Mandelson, despite the well-documented association with Jeff Epstein over the years, shows a complete failure of judgment and priorities. You know, this was a man that everyone in the world knew was a convicted pedophile. How do you appoint someone like that to such an important position?
There was a sense at the time, wasn't there, that to deal with Trump, you had to be slightly Trumpy, and therefore you had to involve people who could deal with Trump, who maybe had a sort of Trumpy side to them. What do you think you make of that kind of justification for the way the Prime Minister might have been thinking a year ago?
I mean, that's a weak justification in my mind. Is there not a Trumpian person who's not a pedophile? I would hope so. I would hope that there's somebody that may have political leanings that could coordinate and speak with Trump in his own language that didn't have an association with Jeffrey Epstein. That would have been a much better choice.
Of course, there is no evidence or suggestion that Peter Mandelson is a paedophile, if that's what you were suggesting. But, I mean, let's move on from Peter Mandelson. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor also, you want him to testify. I mean, how many other people do you think are going to be implicated in this? I think around half the files appear to have been released. From what you know and from what the women you represent have been telling you, have we sort of not seen half of it yet? You wonder where this is going to lead to next.
I get it. Obviously, there is a number of individuals that are shown within these documents now. This is information that, as attorneys on behalf of the victims, we've known about for many years, but we've been unable to talk about because of confidentiality rules. So you know, that's one of the reasons why victims like my clients have wanted this information to be public so that we can then show the world what we've known for years about these individuals' associations with Jeffrey Epstein. It is our hope that the Department of Justice goes after some of the co-conspirators, primarily those that were listed in the sweetheart deal, and potentially those that were complicit in, you know, these victims being transferred between different countries and locations. But it's unfortunately unlikely here in the US.
We've seen an ambassador disgraced. We're seeing now a British Prime Minister whose job is arguably on the line. We're seeing the King being heckled. We're seeing this continuing controversy swirling around the American president. How much more serious, I'm asking, do you think this will get to? And how many other people is it going to, at a high level, is it going to ensnare?
I hope it gets much more serious. I hope that the governments in other countries open up and continue with these investigations, because unless there's pressure on an international level, I don't know that the current administration, the Trump administration, wants a further investigation of this. You probably were aware that the other day during a press interview, Trump wanted people to, quote, move on from this.
Just briefly, how frustrated are your clients that we still haven't seen all these files released, even though it's incumbent on the administration to do so legally?
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. And we want some kind of a penalty provision put into the statute. I was just in contact with the Department of Justice the other week. The day they released these documents, I did a very simple search for my clients' names, and they were in the files unredacted. These are victims that the government has known about for almost 20 years. How they screwed that up, I have no idea, but it was just absolutely atrocious. And they want this information out, and they want it all out correctly, and they want their names protected.
Spencer Coogan, thank you very much. A story that's clearly going to run, and we probably haven't heard half of it yet, but thank you for coming on The World. Well, it's the kidnap mystery fascinating millions. An 84-year-old woman apparently taken from her home in the early hours of the morning. She just happens to be the mother of one of America's most famous presenters, Savannah Guthrie. This is how she appealed to her mum's captors.
Our mom is our heart and our home. She is 84 years old. Her health, her heart is fragile. We too have heard the reports about a ransom letter in the media. As a family, we are doing everything that we can. We are ready to talk. However, we live in a world where voices and images are easily manipulated. We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive and that you have her. We want to hear from you, and we are ready to listen.
So a desperate plea from Nancy's family, and today authorities admitted they hadn't identified any suspects.
Right now, we believe Nancy is still out there. We want her home. The blood on the porch, that was one we did. It came back to Nancy. That's what we know.
Well, let's go to our US correspondent Martha Kellner now for more on this extraordinary story. She's live with us in Arizona. Martha, clearly authorities seem to have very little idea about what could have happened to Savannah Guthrie's mother, but they do seem to know a bit more about her last known movements.
Yeah, that's right, Dom. I'm right outside Nancy Guthrie's home. You can see a car parked there on the driveway. I believe that's private security. There is no police cordon here. But as you say, 5 days into this search for 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, no suspect and no persons of interest. Questions mounting and fears too for Nancy Guthrie, given her age and her deteriorating health. This is a very quiet part of Tucson, Arizona, a very beautiful part as well. It's right in the foothills of the Santa Catalina mountain. But what happened here appears to be very grim. Detectives believe that Nancy Guthrie was snatched from her home in the middle of the night, taken against her will. There are precious few details about this investigation so far, but there were a couple of nuggets from that police press conference earlier. The first thing is that blood that was found on the entranceway, the porch in front of Nancy Guthrie's house, has been confirmed as belonging to Nancy Guthrie. You can only imagine how distressing that must be for her family to learn. Police also revealed what they say is a timeline of around the period that Nancy Guthrie was snatched late Saturday evening into the early hours of Sunday morning. Let me take you through that timeline. 5:32 p.m. On Saturday evening, Nancy left her home here and got an Uber to her family's home locally, 10 to 15 minutes drive away. We're told that they spent the evening playing games and eating. 9:48 p.m, the family dropped Nancy back at home and the garage door opens. 2 minutes later, that garage door closes. Tick forward into the early hours of Sunday morning. 1:47 a.m, a doorbell camera, a ring camera type situation, disconnects. 2:12 a.m, software detects a person or persons on camera. Obviously, that is crucial. Police say they don't have a video of that person, but they're looking into it. 2:28 a.m, a pacemaker app. Nancy Guthrie wears a pacemaker. It disconnects from her phone. It's not until 11:56 a.m. Sunday morning that the family check on Nancy, and just a few minutes later, they make a call to police, and shortly after, police arrive on the scene here. But as you were showing viewers earlier, Dom, Savannah Guthrie, who is a very well-known TV personality over here, she is making an appeal to the people that she believes are holding her mother.
Right, so we've got some evidence of a person on a camera. We've got this pacemaker apparently disconnecting from a phone. Also a couple of ransom notes, at least, I think. But I think at least one of them turned out to be fake. Are those ransom notes, or at least one of them, a lead, an important lead for the police at this stage in the investigation?
Yeah, it certainly seems that that is a key focus, Dom. There have been 3 ransom notes so far, but one of them investigators are taking very seriously, and there's a couple of reasons why they're doing that. It's because in this ransom note, they apparently make reference to an Apple Watch that Nancy Guthrie was wearing. They also mention a floodlight at the house, so police investigating whether that ransom note is legitimate. But certainly Savannah Guthrie is taking it seriously. In that public appeal, she directly speaks to the people she believes are holding her mother and says, we're ready to listen, but she does say that they need proof of life in order to engage with them. A couple of other key things from that ransom note. The FBI say that there are a number of demands and timelines referenced in that ransom note. The first deadline given, we don't know what it's a deadline for, is 5 p.m. today, and there is another deadline of next Monday. You can tell from all these details this is a huge mystery, and it's one that's gripping and concerning people across America, especially given Savannah Guthrie's high profile. It's also of interest to the White House. President Trump knows Savannah Guthrie personally. He says that the full force of federal and local law enforcement are at the family's disposal. His press secretary, Caroline Levitt, says that she's speaking, apologies, to the FBI directly. So people right at the highest office in the land taking an interest in this search for 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie.
Martha Cowler, thank you very much on a disappearance that is mystifying a nation, clearly. Well, let's turn now to Iran. One of the screenwriters of an Oscar-nominated film has been arrested in Tehran days after signing a statement condemning the country's violent crackdown on protesters. In a statement, Mehdi Mahmoudyan and 16 others accused the Iranian regime of state crime against humanity. Mahmoudyan co-wrote the script for the Iranian drama It Was Just an Accident. The film has been nominated for Best Screenplay and Best International Film. It was shot covertly in Iran. It was inspired by the director Jafar Panahi's most recent stint in prison. Earlier, I spoke to Mr. Panahi and I asked him why he made the film.
I'm actually a social filmmaker, and a social filmmaker, when they work, they usually get their topics or the aspiration from the society that they live in. When I was taken to the prison, I was taken away from my society. When I was in jail, I actually met new people there, and at the beginning, I didn't have any plan to make this film. But after I was released, after 7 months, I thought that I have to do something. So when you leave jail, basically, when you're freed, then you feel like there is a weight on your shoulder. And then you feel that you have to make a film about the people that you met in the prison. And this was my thought. And I had this thought that the violence cycle in the society should end. And therefore, I was hoping that I could pay tribute to my inmates. And that's why I decided to make the film.
Obviously, Iran's jails are notorious, and we presume there are tens of thousands of people in their jails now following the unrest and the brutal crackdown by the government. Amongst them is your friend Mehdi Mahmoodian. And I know you're concerned about his plight, not just his, but others who you're in jail with. What have you heard from Mehdi as to his condition and how he is and the others who were taken with him?
I was in contact with Mehdi, and the last time it was 3 a.m. in the morning, actually, when I sent him a message, and I noticed that he had not seen the message until next day. So I spoke to my friends, and we felt that something must have happened. And then I heard the news, actually, from the BBC Persian the next day.
And what are your thoughts about what is happening now in the country? And the way your government appears to have cracked down on this unrest with the kind of crackdown we've really not seen the likes of, I mean, not for decades in any other country.
Well, 9 months ago at Cannes Festival, I said this, and I'm saying it again, that this regime is collapsed politically, economically, and socially, and also ideologically. The only reason that it is still operating is because they have money and the power. And when a regime comes to this point, in order to survive, they will be ready to do anything. And as a result, such a slaughter actually happened in Iran.
What are your friends and family telling you about what is happening in Iran right now? Because we've seen the unrest, we've seen the massacres, the brutal crackdown, and it seems to have gone quiet. Do you think that unrest now is finished for now, or are we going to see another round of it?
Well, when the violence is to this extent, usually it's a shock to the people, and they are mourning about the people who have been killed. And someday they believe that it will be finished. And the people of Iran currently, they are thinking how to cope with the situation, with the psychological pressure that they are in because of so many people that have been killed.
Yeah, but the government has the guns, it has the power, it has thousands of Basiji and IRGC guardsmen who seem prepared to massacre their own people. How do the people deal with that? The regime is at an end, you say, but how is it brought down?
Well, many of the world revolution have been the same. You know, people had nothing, but because they knew what they want to achieve, they succeeded and they managed to achieve what they want. An example is Mr. Mahmoodian, who was in prison for 9 years. He was actually arrested 8 times for various reasons, but he was not disappointed. He has continued his work. And even in prison, when I met Mr. Mahmoodian, he was a very kind person. He was helpful to all prisoners and was trying to, you know, look after them.
What can the outside world do to help? And what can filmmakers and the film industry, do you think, do to help the people of Iran?
We have filmmakers friends in Iran, and they are either in prison, like Mr. Nurizad, or some of them are banned from work. from working, and they have their own problems like many others. I believe that the filmmakers all over the world, they are a family, and they can actually talk about these issues and help the filmmakers inside Iran just to raise their voices. That's because the filmmakers are known to the people. They are influential figures, and whatever they can do for the Iranian, it can affect, it can help them.
That is Oscar-nominated Iranian film director Jafar Panahi speaking to me earlier. You're watching The World with me, Dominic Waghorn. Still to come. Find out what we learned when Sky News went undercover in a scam call centre in Cambodia.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to.
Being a Sky News presenter.
Hello and welcome. Westminster, the heart of British politics.
I'm so sorry about what happened to you.
So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think? It's really unusual. Mornings with Richard and Frost. Let's crack on. Let's get started.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist.
A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan had the right to respond.
You're like, what?
Historic day here today. Congratulations, this is a huge moment. But what happens now?
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra Al-Baghir has this report.
And this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
To Cambodia now, where authorities have been cracking down on huge multi-billion-pound scam centres. But a Sky investigation proves the illegal industry is going on still. The Chinese bosses have been extradited and workers rounded up, thousands of them. Many who say they were trafficked and tortured are now stranded and queuing up at embassies, hoping to return home. Sky News have travelled to the city of Sihanoukville, where our Asia correspondent Cordelia Lynch was hired by scammers and asked to impersonate a legitimate US company to try and steal victims' money. Here's her report.
We're undercover in Cambodia, inside a multi-billion-dollar scam industry.
Do you think that will be what?
The government is cracking down, but is it just political theatre? We found the brazen criminals still operating.
The police will give us a warning and then we can go.
Yes, so you guys don't have to worry about that.
Yet on the surface, there has been a dramatic exodus of scammers. An alleged kingpin extradited, other bosses arrested, and thousands of foreign workers detained and some freed. Athena is from Indonesia. She says she was sold to 5 compounds.
When we are work normally, the bosses just walk and playing with the electric shock around us.
Electric shock?
Yeah. And they can punch you with a chair also. It's an iron chair.
Many scammers are forced to work, trafficked and tortured by Chinese gangs. Their cyber fraud operations hidden behind now abandoned fortified buildings. This is just one, Brother Compound in Phnom Penh.
You get a really powerful sense here of just how watched over people must have felt. There are CCTV cameras everywhere.
Mattresses are piled high. Here you had to eat, sleep, breathe scamming.
They weren't hiding what they were doing here. On this whiteboard, it's all about scam techniques. And here in number 3, which we've had translated, they talk about how to emotionally manipulate your victims.
Upstairs is the engine room.
Just look, rows and rows of desks with plugs. We've seen discarded computers elsewhere. And look over here, you've got pockets for the mobile phones which were confiscated by the scam bosses because they wanted their workers focusing.
It's a carrot and stick operation. Bonuses promised alongside punishments and a clear hierarchy. Many of the thousands of people who poured out of these compounds are now stranded, with no money or passports, lines growing longer outside embassies as a result. Samuel and Paul say they were trafficked here from Cameroon and Uganda. They've covered their faces because they're scared they'll be arrested or targeted by their former bosses.
How did that moment feel, stepping outside for the first time from a scam compound you'd been stuck in for so long?
God. It's like, the feeling is like you've been in prison for 8 months. And then suddenly you get, the feeling of seeing outside of those gates, it's something that will be engraved in my mind for a very long time because I would say I was in prison.
Paul's bosses took his passport and never paid him, and yet he's the one heavy with guilt.
I don't deserve to go in heaven. Many people, they are crying out, they lose money just because of what I do. It's not good work at all.
But it is wildly lucrative, equivalent to around 1/3 of Cambodia's GDP. In Sihanoukville, it exploded. Now it's like a ghost town. There is some movement, though. On the Telegram messaging app, scam agents are still recruiting. We posed as wannabe workers. Hours later, in a packed lift, we head to floor 31 for an interview. Inside room 115, a call centre scam set up just a few days ago. The recruiters ask us to read a script, impersonating a legitimate US company called K-Force.
I'm reaching out on behalf of K-Force. I'm contacting you to recommend a remote job opportunity. May I ask you if you are over 25 years old? The customer replies yes.
We're told we can make $1,000 a month and that we can come and go freely.
So we just have to pretend to be the K-Force to the Americans.
And the police, they say, will tip them off before any raid.
About the safety, right? Yeah, there's nothing to worry about it, because if there is anything happen, they're going to tell us before maybe 2 or 3 days.
The police will give us a warning.
Yes. So you guys don't have to worry about that.
Okay, so everyone will be safe.
Yes.
Okay.
The real K-Force, based in the US, confirm this call centre has no connection to it, and they take fraud and the misuse of their name extremely seriously. In a statement to Sky News, the Ministry of Interior thanked us for our reporting and asked for the location of the scam building so they could investigate. In a separate statement, Cambodia's Minister of Information said, the royal government of Cambodia rejects claims that it's failing trafficking victims or tolerating abuse linked to scam compounds. Authorities have dismantled criminal networks nationwide, rescued foreign nationals, and coordinated repatriations. But the government has also been accused of profiting from scams and enabling slavery and trafficking. The US and China recently demanding more action. The big question is whether Cambodia is capable of crushing such a colossal industry and just how far it's really willing to go.
There is no doubt dismantling the scam industry is an absolutely enormous task, and it's going to take more than just Cambodia alone to do it. Now, there is skepticism about what the Cambodian government is doing. It's long been accused of enabling these scam centres. What I would say this time that feels different is the extent of the diplomatic pressure on the country. That comes from America, who's seen a lot of its citizens financially targeted, and China too, because you've got Chinese nationals running these scam centres who are recruiting Chinese citizens to work in them, and they in turn are also targeting Chinese people back home. So the government there desperately wants to see action. You've also got Cambodia's Southeast Asian neighbours who have seen some of their citizens brought to these scam centres. Some have been tortured and some even killed. And so there's this big swell of political pressure on Cambodia right now. It is, though, hugely lucrative. The UN has estimated somewhere between 100 and 150,000 people have been trafficked to Cambodia to work in these scam centres since the COVID pandemic, and it generates about $12.5 billion annually for the Cambodian economy too. So there you see the extent of the challenge ahead. And another really important point is just how quickly these scams can shift and move. They are nimble operations and they find a place to crop up elsewhere. We've seen this kind of game of whack-a-mole play out in the past where these scam centres just reinvent themselves in a different location or a different country. So there are difficult days ahead to try and bring this to an end.
Cordelia Lynch there. Well, this is The World with me, Dominic Waghorn. Next up, find out how this US congressman appeared to criticise the US president as he stood in front of him.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live.
They have gone up and up. Being a Sky News journalist.
Ed Conway, Sky News. Is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is.
First off, just the scale of what we're looking at.
Our data shows it's been happening. Question is why it hasn't been stopped.
Welcome back. Well, it's an unlikely method to challenge a president. Today, a Democratic congressman used a prayer to criticise Donald Trump's actions in Minnesota, asking that the president be granted with greater courage and greater capacity to do what is right. Have a listen.
Today, we pray for the future of this nation and that you would lead this president into greater levels of compassion for your name's sake. We pray that you would protect him from the iniquities of evil and that you would give him greater clarity, greater courage, and greater capacity to do what is right in the forever challenges. Today we remind him that the lives of millions of people are in his hands and that he has the power to turn mourning into dancing or to reduce the country into a cosmic elegy of chaos and suffering. And it is because of this that we pray that the best of this president would rise among us for the sake of this nation, for the sake of this world. We pray that goodness and mercy would announce themselves in his life in new and powerful ways.
So that was Congressman Jonathan Jackson. He's the son of civil rights activist Jesse Jackson and the godson of Martin Luther King Jr. And he joins me now, I'm pleased to say. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us on The World. We're looking at those pictures there and the president behind you, fairly impassive, not seeming to react to your prayer. What were you trying to achieve with this?
Well, we are all sinners and we've all fallen short of the glory of God. And this was not criticism, as in trying to point out someone's fault. That would be political. This was simply a solemn petition. This is in the prayer breakfast. Everyone stands in the need of prayer. No one is beyond redemption. No one is beyond God's grace. To be the president, to have the loneliest job in the world, to have the most powerful job with the world's biggest economy, with the world's largest military force. The president stands in need of prayer. This goes back now for 74 years to the Eisenhower administration, where they saw that the president had been isolated. And so I've seen mercy, I've seen compassion from President Trump. He has pardoned people that were given life sentences in jail. He has done some remarkable things. I serve on the Foreign Affairs Committee. I serve on the Agricultural Committee. I serve on two of the largest committees that impact the most people across this nation daily in food, service and assistance, and in the world's economy with tariffs. So I hear people's pain every day. So I was just trying to simply, to the president's better nature, higher nature, I think he has some awful advisors around him in the Secretary of Defense and Pete Hegseth, and that of Kristi Noem, and that of Steve Miller. If he could purge and clear out his cabinet, I think we could see a brighter day. So it was a petition for the goodness and for hope. My father's oftentimes said, keep hope alive. So this was a petition. This was a solemn prayer. This was not a criticism of the president.
What do you say? It's not a criticism. It was, as you say, a kind of exhortation to the president to show greater capacity to do what is right, which is, I mean, some people might say sort of implicit criticism at least. Was there any sense of sort of disapproval from the president behind you?
Well, listen here. I could go down the line. We are co-equal branches of government. I would have given that same prayer to the Speaker of the House to do his job. I would have given the same prayer. The Speaker of the House could have curtailed many of these actions. This is not a kingdom. This is a democracy, and the president, he does have brakes on him. But the Speaker of the House, our legislative branch, has not stepped up. People oftentimes ask, how can one person be that powerful? Because the Speaker of the House has not done his job. I'd be much more critical of the person that I have a working relationship with, and that Speaker Mike Johnson, for not reining in the president. You can't change the name of the Kennedy Center. You just can't impose tariffs on other nations. That's the role of the United States Congress. And so that's very clearly laid out. So I would ask the Speaker of the House to do his job.
Congressman, your father's a well-known civil rights activist, your godfather as well. I mean, what do you make of the direction of travel in terms of democracy? How worried are you by an American president who talks about nationalising democracy and whose key lieutenant, Steve Bannon, talks about surrounding polling stations with ICE agents? Should we be worried about the direction of travel with American democracy at the moment?
I certainly would be. This is the little hole in the inner tube. You can start seeing the air come out. You're seeing our streets becoming militarized. This is against the Posse Comitatus Act. You're not supposed to have U.S. soldiers on U.S. soil going against U.S. citizens. That's simply wrong. And someone has to tell the president this is going in the wrong direction. We have 50 state elections on our federal election day for our 537 federally elected officials. That way it's not tampered with, it's tamper-proof. We don't need to have one private company that's dealing with all the ballot machines and one private company that's tabulating all the materials. This is why the system is rather foolproof. And so I think that back to one other point on the religious part, the words of the scripture should comfort the disturbed and disturb those that are too comfortable in high places. And so if you're uncomfortable, maybe that's a good thing. That's the purpose of us going to a church on Sunday, that we ask for the good Lord to intervene and give us some intercession and raise us, exalt us to a higher purpose in life.
Congressman Jonathan Jackson, thank you so much for coming onto The World tonight. Good to have you on the show.
Great. Have a good evening.
This is The World with me, Dominic Waghorn. Next up, demonstrators in Milan take to the streets to protest against US immigration officers there.
Sky News has been given exclusive data showing every Palestinian who has been killed in Gaza since the war began. Our analysis of this pattern in the killings suggests that entire families were wiped out in their homes or shelters. The data and forensics team is a multi-skilled unit dedicated to providing transparent journalism from Sky News. We located footage of the airdrop to a tent camp in central Gaza.
These airdrops are falling in extremely populated areas.
We combine traditional reporting with advanced analysis of satellite imagery, social media, and other open source information. Now, this is just one of the strikes and incidents we've been able to geolocate across Gaza. Sky News has found Nazi speeches and marching music have been used as background sound on tens of thousands of TikTok videos as far-right groups try and spread their message. Sky News has seen 72,000 posts used in this way. There's no evidence yet of foul play at Heathrow. It shows weaknesses that enemies could take advantage of. Elon Musk says it is, quote, a viper's nest of radical left Marxists who hate America. Supporters say it saves lives and projects American power and influence.
I think we would generally be called far right, sure.
It's called Return to the Land, and they invited me in.
A lot of people are going to be, why are you making Nazi references?
Right. Well, why wouldn't I?
Its founder says he is building a fortress for the white race.
It's a racial association. I kind of want to ask you, after seeing this, do you think what we're doing is immoral?
We followed a social media trail that led us to Bristol, where a confrontation between protesters erupted into a full-scale riot.
Here it really is pitched battle skirmishes, hurling missiles, throwing punches.
I'm Tom Cheshire, Sky's data and forensics correspondent.
There's a fresh look to your news from 10 on Sky News.
It's a new show called The Wrap, every night of the week.
We'll still bring you the day's biggest stories,
but with more lively debate,
more in-depth commentary,
and more of what you need to know.
Plus a look at what's making tomorrow's headlines.
The Wrap.
Everything wrapped up for you from 10 on Sky News.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to.
Being a Sky News presenter.
Hello and welcome. Westminster, the heart of British politics.
I'm so sorry about what happened to you.
So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think?
It's really unusual.
Mornings with Richard and Frost. Let's crack on. Let's get started.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist.
A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan has the right to respond.
You're like, what?
Historic day here today. Congratulations, this is a huge moment. But what happens now?
Welcome back. Well, ordinarily, the presence of ice at the Winter Olympics would not be controversial, rather essential, you might think, but not if you're talking about American ICE agents or immigration and customs enforcement officers. Hundreds of demonstrators have gathered in Milan to protest their involvement in the Games. Our sports correspondent Rob Harris is live in Milan tonight. Rob, thanks for joining us. What on earth are ICE agents doing involved in the Winter Olympics in Italy?
Well, it's one of the questions being asked here. The US team are insistent that the ICE agents aren't with the athletes themselves, but they are part of the wider protection delegation, working with the embassy as Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio have arrived here in Milan today, just past one of their motorcades just before, snaking through the narrow streets here in the centre. And Vance has been at the ice hockey today to see the women's team in action against Czechia. And while he was there, he said actually the Olympics is one of the few things to unite the country. He's talking about back in the United States because here there are concerns that maybe the Americans could be booed in the opening ceremony at the San Siro Stadium here tomorrow night. It's not just the presence of ICE agents that's already seen protests here in Milan, it's the general frostiness with relations between Europe and the United States. But we heard earlier today from the head of the US delegation who's hoping that the atmosphere is respectful.
We don't anticipate there to be a lot of negative energy on or around the field of play. That said, we do a ton of what we call games readiness training and preparation with the delegation as we come into the country, and that is widespread across all kinds of preparation for athletes to ensure that they feel comfortable and they're not walking into an environment that's uncertain.
Rob, there's always some kind of controversy around the Olympics, isn't there? But I think this time around we've not just got the ice controversy, but another one, not related to ice, but a little bit more bizarre, I think.
Yes, and Olympics can bring out the bizarre stories, and this is a focus on ski jumpers and the suits that they're wearing and allegations that have surfaced about whether they're trying to increase the size of their genitalia. And it's nothing to do with perhaps bedroom gymnastics in the Olympic Village. This is about being able to stretch the uniform, which would actually give it an advantage gliding through the air to be able to give you that greater lift. Now, we haven't managed to substantiate it, but it came up at a news conference today with the World Anti-Doping Agency, and you know, they're aware of it, they've discovered, but they said they'd only look into it if there was actual doping competitive advantages that were discovered. They've already had to tighten the rules after the Norwegians were found to be cheating, manipulating uniforms last year. Just the controversies and issues you can get around the Games. Something that is a concern is health, because the Finnish ice hockey team has actually had to postpone their match against Canada today because of an outbreak of the norovirus. But it's all building up to the opening ceremony. Mariah Carey re-performing in the San Siro. We've had the torch that's come through here, the centre by the cathedral in Milan. It is the most spread out Winter Olympics ever, a footprint of 10,000 miles. The intention is to ensure they're using as many existing venues as possible, not building things they don't necessarily need. And perhaps there's nothing more iconic of the complexity of building things than here in front of the cathedral in Milan, which took 600 years to complete.
Whatever next, Rob. Thank you very much for joining us from Milan. Keep us updated on those ski jumpers and what they're up to with their costumes. Before I go, I want to show you some images we've just got in, not related to that. After the robbery at the Louvre in Paris, these are. The museum has released pictures of the recovered crown that the thieves dropped on the street while fleeing. This is what it looked before the robbery. Crown jewels of a sort, I guess. And this is what it looks like now. The Louvre said the crown of the French Empress Eugénie was left nearly intact and can be fully restored. The artefact is missing one of 8 golden eagles, but has the rest of it intact. That's it. More foreign news tomorrow. Good night.